Been to Puerto Rico, I've been to Miami, and I've been to San Diego.
What led you to go?
The most recent one I went on was San Diego, and I at first really was like, I don't know if I really want to go. It's a long time. It's gonna take up my whole spring break. But then I just started to pray about it, and God was really leading me to just I just kept hearing Him say go, and so I ended up deciding on going, um, and I mean I loved it. It was great.
Did you have any expectations or fears before you went?
Um, yes. So we had been doing our like whole training thing, and throughout the entire thing, um, they had been saying that San Diego was a very unreached community, and specifically the places we were going to. And when we got there, it was, but they were telling us that it's okay. Most people are going to be very unreceptive of the gospel, but when we got there, it was the complete opposite. Almost every single person was had their ears open. They were ready to hear, and they wanted to come.
Did you end up needing to raise any funds? And if you did, how did you do that? What are some things you did?
So I had my own job at the time,
Okay.
still do. So I just had saved up about $50 out of my paycheck for a couple months, and that had ended up accumulating to enough.
Through the training that you did you have any specific personal goals that you had before going on?
So I'm not necessarily the best when it comes to keeping a personal devotional or a sort of quiet time. So my goal was that for the up until when we started the training until then, to have a quiet time every single day. Um, and I definitely did not meet that goal, but I was pretty close. And at minimum, my goal was to at least sit for a couple minutes of meaningful prayer about the trip.
When you got there, how did you feel?
I was a little bit scared, but I also was very excited. Um, the night we got there, we went immediately and started just doing stuff, and it made me super excited and just ready for the whole rest of the week.
Like giving a really quick recap, what are some things that you ended up doing?
We helped assemble bags of food. We helped distribute those bags of food. We prayed with people in their car or at their cars. We did a cleanup project around a church. So we helped them sort clothes, um, clean out some stuff, and we just did a bunch of canvassing, just making sure that people in the community knew that there was a church by them and that they wanted them to come.
So what would you say is your favorite part, or also what was the hardest part for you?
I think my favorite part and the hardest part are both just the going out and doing the spreading of the gospel. It's super almost fulfilling when you see people light up as you just say, hey, you're loved and God loves you and we want you to come to church. But it's also extremely terrifying because you go and you have no idea what you're going to encounter.
Yes, we did. Romania.
Awesome. What led y'all to go, or what? I guess, how did you know that God was calling you to go to Romania?
Well, we went to Romania for the first time back in 2018, and it was after, I think it was after the move happened and Move Sunday and that weekend, and we met with people and we started having meetings for it, and then we decided that's what we wanted to do. We wanted to go to Romania. And then we went again this past year for the second time.
Do you feel well equipped when before you went to?
I think we tried to prepare, but I think it's always when you get there and you just immerse yourself in the culture of the place that you're in. That's when there's no way to really prepare for this.
just being there and praying about it and trying to be with other Christians and talk about how we're going to spread the gospel and how we can better prepare ourselves in our relationship with Christ.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I think that there's no absolutely best way to prepare for it.
Yeah.
Just prepare your heart for it, because you are discipling people, so it's important to share the gospel with them and prepare your heart and your mind for it, and just pray about it. But going to a different country is also kind of difficult because it's a whole other culture. So you also have to prepare your mind for that as well.
Yeah. So give me a general, like, short kind of picture of what you guys did.
Well, we went ahead and we flew over there with the team and kind of talked over with the group leaders of the camp. We worked with Life Romania at Camp Mia, and we just kind of prayed about it. We had our devotions in the morning and walked through the week and how we were going to help these children. And then it was all about just getting started and making sure that we had everything ready. And then we just started discipling to these children.
What was your favorite part, but also what were some of the hardest parts of when you were there?
I think my favorite part was being with the kids, because when you're at, it's a camp, so when you're just having fun with the kids, but you also get to share the gospel with them. And over this past year, we had a main theme, and it was the Max Lucado books, You Are Special. And we would do these little skits on it, like acting it out. And it was so fun doing that and getting to see the kids' reactions for it. They were so amazed by it. They're like, oh my gosh. And it's just so amazing because they understand. They understand like what you're trying to put two and two together there.
Yeah.
You know, you are special in the book, and then you are special.
Yeah.
So I think that was,
Giving them a good
yeah, that's my favorite part. The hardest part was leaving, I think, because you get so attached to them.
yeah.
So,
My favorite part was definitely just having that one-on-one time. After our devotionals, we would try to get with each of the children and just kind of ask them about how their day's been, what they needed, or how they were feeling. And I think it just makes such a big impact on me because they really feel like they can talk to you. And they, by the end of the week, just share everything and how they feel. And many of them talk about how they want a relationship with Christ. And it just kind of brings you to tears knowing that someone is now going to have a real relationship because of you, because of the team, and because of this camp. So I think it's definitely a special thing. But the hardest part, again, is the, just having that now relationship with them, and then leaving, knowing that you might come back, you might not, but that you at least imprinted, you planted a seed. So that's definitely the hardest part.
What are some things that you prayed for your trip?
Well, we definitely prayed for the kids at the camp and even the leaders to just be receptive about the word and just to open up and share how they feel. Also want to listen and understand the Bible and how the leaders were presenting it. I think that was definitely a big thing. And then we also prayed for safety while we were there, for the leaders, for the missionaries, and for the children.
for me, I remember distinctly, like every single night over the summer before we went, I prayed that God would give me wisdom and that He would give me the words to say when I got there, because the kids speak English. They're very good at speaking English, but a lot of the time it's, even for English speakers, it's hard to like get your words across and what you're trying to say to them. And it's so important to share the gospel with them, and I wanted to do it in a very clear way and do it very well. And so I just pray that God would help me be articulate and give me wisdom, so that I can speak as well.
What are some things that you learned after coming home, and what are some things that you think others should know before going on a mission trip?
I think coming home, I felt like it was over. And you're spending sometimes years preparing for this mission trip. And then you come there and it's fun, and you also help these children and you see the impact that it made. And then you come back home and it's done. But yet you also kind of have this happy feeling knowing that you helped lead so much Christ, and that you had a great time, and that you hope you'll be back.
So, where did you end up going for your short-term missionary experience?
So most recently, I went out to London. That was in May, and we were out there for about a week, like a Saturday to Saturday. It was a great experience.
Cool. What would you say led you to go, or how did you know that God called you to go on that mission trip?
So actually, like when I first heard about the London trip, I felt kind of on the fence about it. I wasn't sure if I should go or not. I wanted to be sure, as with any mission trip, that God is really calling me there, that I'm not just going out of obligation or because I want to. But it was probably a week before the sign-ups closed. I just spent a night at home, and I was really praying about it because I had no idea, and like I felt like part of me wanted to go, and I was like, but is that what God wants? But after praying that night, Dan reached out to me, and he was like, hey, just making sure, are you signed up for the London trip? And I said, all right, God, I guess I'll go.
Do you have any prior expectations for your
London was definitely a different experience than that. Like I kind of had some idea of what to expect. There's not a language gap like there was, say, in Guatemala or in other countries around the world. They speak the same language as me, but the cultural difference was very surprising to me when I got there. I kind of expected, since we all spoke the same language, that would make it really easy to reach out with people and to connect with people, but that expectation would quickly be proven wrong.
Did you end up needing to raise any funds for the trip?
I personally did not. I saved money, and it worked out that with the church being generous and helping with part of the mission trip, I was able to over time get everything that I needed for the trip, just from working and tutoring and such.
That's good. Did you have any goals for what you were going to do for the mission that you were going to?
I think I really went into London blind. Going on the trip, I had a rough idea of what we would be doing there, the places we would be, but my real goal going into the mission trip was to have an open mind and an open heart, to just see how God was going to use me and to be willing to do that.
Yeah. So how did you end up feeling when you got there? And then you can give me a kind of a recount of the things that you ended up doing.
Okay. So how I felt when I got there, at first, just the sights were incredible. You going to a new place. Florida's pretty flat. I've scarcely seen a hill in my lifetime. Going out to the English countryside, interacting with wild horses, and just wandering pastures. The countryside was beautiful, and the city was crazy in a whole different way. I don't live in a city. I've been to cities, not usually a huge fan, but it was so clean. It really seemed like they were taking care of everything. So that was kind of surprising. You know, I've heard horror stories about going to famous places and it being really disappointing, but London streets were nice. When we got there, we spent the first couple of days in the countryside in a place called Rawton, which is just barely on the map. We were in a little village with a man named Carl Porter, and kind of reaching out to his neighbors. He's trying to start a ministry, so maybe doing a little bit of door-to-door or standing on the street corners, just talking to people. It was such a small, tight-knit community that when people saw us, they wondered who we were, because everybody knows everybody. So it actually really helped with starting conversation, because you know, the moment I would start talking to somebody from the UK, they would ask, "You're not from here, are you?" So you know, play into the tourist a little bit, and you know, maybe ask someone for directions and start a conversation. But so that was our first couple of days, and I feel like it was really awesome getting to meet those people, you know, have these genuine conversations with people that I might never see again, but to connect them with Carl, and to I've heard from more recent letters that, you know, the church is doing really great, and it's really encouraging. After those first couple of days, just a complete 180, we went into London City, where there's, you know, millions of people wandering the streets, kind of a general polite atmosphere, but everyone's in a rush. So it was at first really difficult to talk to people, because you know, like if you would mention anything about church or about God, they would they wouldn't be rude, but they would politely say, "No, thank you," and then they would keep walking.
What did your team look like? Or what did you end up doing together to benefit the mission that you were there for?
So we had a really small team going into London, less than 10 people, including Pastor Dan, which I think actually really helped us in some ways. It would be awesome to have 40 people out on the mission field doing God's work, but because we were such a small team, we got to spend a lot of time together, getting to know each other, and working in each other's strengths and working through each other's weaknesses. A lot of times we would be in pairs, and because there were so few of us, each of us got to pair with everybody else at least once. That when we worked together, maybe I'm more confrontational than one of the girls I was serving with, or maybe they can connect with somebody better in conversation, and you know, all those things working together, I feel like we were able to reach people better than any of us could have by ourselves.
So with a short-term mission trip being about 6 to 7 days, and knowing that disciples aren't necessarily made within that short time frame, what do you think a good long-term plan so that you would be able to equip those that you're serving in order to benefit the kingdom?
I think that call to missions is, you know, a different calling than a call to discipleship. I think the time I spend in missions is absolutely an amazing time to serve the Lord. It's absolutely an amazing time to reach new people, to share the gospel, to build community with my fellow church members. But like you said, it's certainly not enough time to raise someone up as a disciple in Christ. Personally, for me, I you know, recognizing how important it is to be equipped with the gospel, to be ready to provide a defense for the gospel, to be ready to share and do God's work, discipleship is absolutely necessary. There's no question about that.
What led me to go to Atlanta? Just, I wanted to experience what it would be like to go with a church.
So give me a small recap of like some things that were in Atlanta.
We went to this one church and we helped out cleaning like the outside of it because it was just all messy and stuff. And so we cleaned that all up, and then we also like helped clean the church before they had a church service, and then after that they have like a big party where the families of that church met met up,
Okay.
and like we helped serve that part, and like there was some incidents where one family filled some food, and then we would help them clean it up, and like yeah.
Awesome. Did you have any experiences sharing the gospel?
Yes, we were spreading the gospel to different people, like just to random, just to strangers, and we asked them some questions, and we used the 3 circles as our questions.
How did the 3 circles diagram help you share the gospel?
The 3 circles diagram kind of like helped me explain to people how really the how it works, and how the gospel and how God can save you, because it's really just a small and simple thing to do.
What was your favorite part of the trip, and what was probably the hardest part?
I'd say the favorite part of the trip was whenever we helped out the church and to clean up the outside of it, because because helping makes people feel good about it, and that's probably the best part.
What was the hardest part?
I would say the hardest part was probably leaving, because it was just sad, kind of.
Yeah, because you made new friendships and connections that you never made.
Yeah.
Going on a mission trip, what's the true goal that you should have in mind?
I would say to change, to help me spread the gospel whenever I'm away from camp, because I feel like that's a time to help yourselves learn about how to spread the gospel.
What led you to go to Atlanta on your mission trip? Or how did you know that God wanted you to specifically go?
At first, I was just thinking about having fun on the trip. I wasn't really thinking about God when I went, but when I was on it, I learned a lot. It was really fun.
Did you have any expectations before? Like, what you thought it was going to be like? Or did you even have, like, any fears going into the trip?
I had a lot of fears. I was really nervous. I was really nervous of just people not liking me or something, because I was with a lot of people that I never knew before. And I was a little nervous for going up to people and telling them about God in the 3 circles. That's where I met them for the first time. And I was just really nervous for people like thinking I'm crazy or something like that.
Crazy for her.
Yeah.
It's a good business. Did you have any specific goals that you, I guess if you didn't necessarily expect certain things on the trip, did you have any goals for what you wanted to get out of the trip?
I think I really wanted to learn a lot more about God and learn how other people reacted to you telling about Him. And I just really wanted to find out like what that was like sharing the gospel, because that's my first time doing it. So
Sweet. That's awesome. How did you feel when you were there? And then give me some examples of what you did there.
we went to a mall and we talked to people about God, and a lot of people actually like knew about Him, and it was just really exciting, honestly.
Awesome. Did you do anything to partner with the church then? Or?
We did partner with the church. I can't remember the name of it, but we set up like a coffee shop there, and we cleaned them up for a big thing. We had a barbecue, not barbecue. It was like we had hot dogs and hamburgers one day.
Grill.
Yeah, a grill. And that was fun. We helped them set up for that, and we got a lot of people to come.
What was your favorite part, but also what do you think was the hardest part?
I think the hardest part was probably we shared the 3 circles for the first time to a lot of people I didn't know, and that was really fun because I got to learn how other people thought of him and their answers to like these questions we were asking them. And it was really hard and it was really scary going up to strangers, but I think it was fun.
So what was your favorite trip?
My favorite part was probably when we helped the church get clean and stuff, and we had the little girl. That was fun.
Did you feel like before you went, or no, while you were there, did you feel that you were well equipped for what God was calling you to do?
Yes and no. I think I knew about him. I know about him, and I believe in him. I can be a very shy person sometimes, so I was really nervous, but like, I'm a very shy person, so I was super scared, really nervous, but I believed in him, I trusted him, and I did it. It was good.
What did God teach you after coming home, and what would you want other people to know before going on a mission trip?
I think the biggest thing I would want people to know, and that I learned, is that God is working everywhere. And you don't know what you could say to a random person could change their life. And that's just the biggest thing when going on these mission trips. So you just want to share what you know and what you believe to everyone.
And did you learn anything new about God through this experience?
I learned that God is just, he's all powerful, he's everywhere, he works through everyone, no matter who we are. They could go steal a car, you can still love them, forgive them, and still be working in them. And someday you could be a preacher. It's just fun, just everything. And sometimes you may not want it, or need it, or you would need it, but want it. But he's gonna do it, and you're gonna love him for it.
What led you to go, or how did you know that God called you to go on this mission trip?
So it was kind of different for the 2 mission trips. I'll talk about the New Jersey one that I went to Harvest City. Honestly, it was my parents' Sunday school class. The high school went on a trip at the time to New Jersey, but I didn't go on that one. I went with my parents' Sunday school class, and it was just kind of like something that we knew we were all supposed to do because everybody in the class had daughters, and so the plan was to host like a mother-daughter banquet while we were there for the people who lived there. So it was just kind of a very solid, this is why we were supposed to go kind of thing, just to serve the families.
Awesome. Did you have any like certain expectations or even fears going to New Jersey?
Yes, actually. When I was a little bit younger, I've thankfully gotten over it now. I was actually a little afraid of flying on planes. And the one that we went on was very, very small. It was a little claustrophobic. So I was a little nervous going into that, but it was a great comfort to be there with my parents because I didn't have to, do it all by myself. And there were also other people my age. I mean, I was the oldest girl on the trip, so that was kind of daunting in a way, but like my parents were there, like I said, so that helped a lot. Cool. They had like all this Puerto Rican food, and it was so good. And so that was really fun. But after we all ate, we all went out to the neighborhood and evangelized, and we did live baptisms in a kiddie pool on the street in the neighborhood. So people who weren't even part of the church were just driving by, seeing people get baptized. We had like ukuleles out there, and we're just all like singing worship songs, and people getting baptized. It was just really cool.
That's awesome. Did you feel well equipped for the things that God was going to call you to do while you were there?
Frankly, no, because I didn't really know why I was there, like officially, because it's easy to look back now when I'm older and see why we were there. But while I was there at the time, I was just kind of, I don't want to say like I was a brat, but I kind of was. I was going into it with a negative mindset, and he revealed like a lot of things to me
maturity wise, which I think helped. I felt equipped once again because adults were there, but I also felt equipped because I kind of was able to go into like a sisterly role, which was very familiar to me because I have an older sister. So I felt equipped to interact with the people on my team. I felt unequipped going out into the street evangelizing because I'm very introverted and that can be very daunting for me. But also because a lot of people we were interacting with were adults, so I felt kind of odd just kind of evangelizing to adults, but God uses it.
Absolutely. What was your team like, and how did you guys work together to benefit the mission that you were on?
So the teams were mostly families. All of them had daughters. Like I was the oldest, and it went down chronologically like by year. So it was mostly set up by families, and we functioned fairly well because the adults were making most of the decisions, and the kids were just kind of following their lead. Like that's how biblically it's supposed to be. So yeah, that's the structure.
Cool. After all these experiences, were any of those prior expectations met?
I would say that those prior expectations were exceeded, particularly because I went into it with a negative mindset, I would say, which I don't recommend going into a mission trip with, but I feel like going into mission trips, lots of people actually do go into it with a negative mindset, just depending on how Satan attacks them leading up to the event itself. So my expectations did not get met, and that's a blessing because my expectations were bad. I have very fond memories from being at Harvest City and from the team and from the girls that I served with.
So how did you specifically, like, and individually prepare for this trip, and what would you have done differently?
So it was a few years ago, so I don't fully remember everything that I did to prepare. But what I would do differently, definitely for sure though, is to kind of take my own responsibility when it comes to going on the trip. I think a lot of the trip for me was, oh, my parents are going on this trip, so they're going to be doing all the heavy lifting. I wish I had taken more self-responsibility and prepared my heart more, focused more on my relationship with God going into it so that I could serve Him to the best of my ability.
What are some things that you specifically prayed for? And this could be before, during, or even after your trip.
I think I really just prayed for a lot of peace. I had a lot of anxiety going into the trip because I didn't really feel like I had a lot of friends going into it, which is always the case before you go and serve on a mission trip, and then you leave with lots of friends after. So I prayed specifically for peace between the lack of friends and then the flying on the airplane, which made me nervous. I also am just a big homebody. I don't really love being away from home. So the idea of doing like missions not locally has always been kind of daunting to me. Yeah. So that's what I prayed for mostly. I would say peace and.
Awesome. Here's a question. Okay. So as disciples aren't necessarily made within the short time period of a 6 to 7 day trip, what do you think would be a good long-term plan for you to equip those that you are serving, or even those that you are helping serve the community that you were there for?
I would honestly say the best way you can do that is just going into it with the proper mindset. I would say you have to go into it knowing you're not going to be there for every day of these people's lives. So you want to be there to plant seeds. You're not expecting fruit, I would say, when you're going into it. At least short term. I mean, not saying that God can't do that. He definitely can. He's very powerful and very merciful. But I would say don't go into it with the expectation, I'm going to bring someone to Christ. I'm going to save someone and share the gospel with them. And like, yes, you should share the gospel, but I think more than that, for such a short period of time, you can't do life with these people. I think what you really need to focus on is just showing these people that you care and changing the negative connotation that Christians can have in our culture.
That's good. So how does a short-term mission trip kind of fit into your disciple-making strategy?
So this is going to sound slightly selfish, and it probably is, but I think it really just changes my heart towards serving others, because sometimes I can be short-sighted in that, and I can forget in the everyday, day-to-day, I'm living my life, I'm going to school, I have an exam today. I can become very self-absorbed, and going on these short-term mission trips are almost like it's like a little smoothie to kind of get you back on keeping your eyes on things above and not on earthly things. When you're in your everyday, day-to-day kind of routine, everything gets a little bit hazy. You just focus on what you have to do to get by and not how to serve God. Am I talking too fast?
No.
Okay.
That's actually good. So what did God teach you after you came home, and what are some things that you would like others to know before going on that mission trip?
I think one of the things that God taught me was that I'm a very introspective person, so I think one of the things that He taught me was to get out of my own head. And that goes for evangelism, that goes for going into mission trips with a proper mindset. People do not think about you nearly as much as you think of yourself. And I think that was one of the things that God really taught me post this mission trip that I still struggle to learn to this day, because I think a lot. Did that answer the question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, what would you want others to know before going? I guess you can elaborate.
To Harvest City, or just on a local, or
Just on a short-term
mission trip? Definitely be praying before you go. Just because it is very likely that you're going to get attacked spiritually before trips like these. And definitely be honest to God about where your heart is at before going on these mission trips. Whether it's hard or whether you are just powered up to go share the gospel, be honest about what you're feeling to God and to yourself, because if you stuff it down, it's just going to come up later.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you learn anything new about God specifically?
I would say one of the things that was really evident on the trip with the people that we were working with at Harvest City is just the joy that comes from community with one another. I had never really at that point I didn't really have a lot of Christian community. So I think it was just really interesting that I was able to see the joys of being a Christian and the joy that comes from God and investing in your relationship with Him. I think that's what I learned about God during that time.
If you were to pursue long-term missions in the future, how would you go about praying where God would call you? And do you think that you have to be called to a specific place to go?
I think it depends on the circumstance, and that's a very vague answer. But I think it really depends, because sometimes God just wants obedience, and sometimes God wants you to go somewhere specific. I would say, if you were supposed to go somewhere specific, if God creates the door and creates the way and creates situations and conversations around the Christians around you, kind of pushing you in that direction, then I would say that's where God's calling you to go, and that's where you need to go. But if there's not a specific place, but you do feel a call towards missions, pray about it. He may reveal a specific place, and I would find more often than not, it probably is more specific than we want to let it be. So yes, I would say that. What was the first part of the question?
How would you go about praying for where God would call you?
For starters, I would ask. I feel like a lot of the time we overcomplicate it and just be like, God, I don't know where you want me to go, and we never asked Him where He wants us to go. We're like, why won't you tell me anything? It's because we've never asked. So I would say, first, ask Him, and second, be paying attention. Like, be reading your Bible, be talking with those other Christians around you, be checking on your church's mission trips, see what they're offering, see if anything just really tugs on your heartstrings, or just make yourself available and make yourself aware of your opportunities.